Okay, multi-level inheritance. If you haven't watched the previous tutorials on inheritance, I highly recommend you watch them now because it follows on from that. Multi-level inheritance. So let's look at an example right here. Here I have an animal class. Here it is right here. It defines some basic things to do with, with animals, especially this method here, make noise. Now this method is virtual, which means any child classes of this base class animal can optionally define their own content for this method. Okay, we talked about this. Now we have two new classes, one called carnivore, and its parent class is animal, and one called herbivore. So the carnivore is like meat eating, and a herbivore is plant eating. And a herbivore is an animal, so is a, so it satisfies that kind of relationship. And the herbivore overrides the method of the parent class animal and defines its own functionality, which is I'm a herbivore, makes plant eating noises. And same with the carnivore, it's overriding the virtual method and defining its own code. I'm a carnivore, makes meat eating noises. Okay? So if we create an object which is a carnivore or a herbivore and run this method, we're going to get this result. Now, cat and dog. Now, cat is a carnivore, and dog is also a carnivore. So you can see what is happening here is the dog is almost like the grandson of animal, but this carnivore class kind of sits between dog and animal. So the kind of base class here is animal, and then animal's child is the carnivore, and then the child of carnivore is the dog. So that's an example of multi-level inheritance. We have a hierarchy here. We have kind of like the grandson, the dog, the father is the carnivore, and the granddad would be the animal, for example. So there's multi-layers of inheritance here, and you can perfectly do that, fine in CSharp. This is just an example. So you can see here, dog also overrides the method make noise, and it's doing bark woof. So let's take a look at an example here. So I'm creating a new animal. So that's the base class, sort of like the granddad. I'm creating a new dog, which is like the grandson, and a new cat. And then I'm calling the make noise method on each of these. So I don't have a carnivore object, I don't have a herbivore object. So let's run the application. So here we have makes random animal noises, because we don't know what animal Henry is. That's what we've kind of defined. And then dog and cat have their own definitions for make noise. So bark, woof, and meow. So what happens if I remove this method here from dog? What happens? Am I inheriting carnivore? Am I inheriting animal? Like the granddad of this. Well, I'll show you right now. It inherits the parent class. So you can see now I don't have a method called make noise in dog. So when the dog makes noise, it looks at its parent class. And in this case, it's carnivore. So carnivore is actually overriding make noise and giving its own definition. So when we run the program, you can see this is Henry, the random animal noise. Let's just put that in view there. So this is Henry. This is the dog, because the dog class is now not overriding this. So now it kind of jumps to its parent, which is carnivore, and that does override it. So now the dog is saying, I'm a carnivore, makes meat eating noises. And the cat still has its own kind of overridden method defined, so that the cat is still meowing. But that is a very basic example of multi-level inheritance in C# and how we can kind of utilize that. So how many layers of inheritance can you have? How big can we kind of build this animal family tree, for example? Well, there is no real set limit. But when making software, you don't want to make it, absolutely ridiculous. 2, 3, 4 levels maybe might be, depending on the size of your application. So having, 10 or 50 levels of inheritance, I can't think of an example why you would ever want to do that. But the purpose of this tutorial is just to show you like this is possible, and it's people use it in the real world. There is one other type of inheritance, and that's called multiple inheritance. That's where a class, for example, like cat, can inherit from not only, for example, animal, but maybe something else like feline or something, so two classes. Now, C# doesn't natively support this, but it can be achieved through interfaces, which we're going to discuss in a later tutorial. So there are different layouts for inheritance, but this is just an example of multi-layer inheritance to kind of get you started with. So I hope this tutorial helped you consider many of the possibilities with inheritance in C#.